As I told you last week, I was journeying on to a convention in Denver, and I was at the Love and Logic conference for helping me to become a certified trainer for Love and Logic. And so that's been accomplished, and so I'm back here today. And in preparation for Mother's Day, I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if we had the opportunity to hear about the ministry of Mother and Child, which is a ministry that that I'm on their board and I work with, and just really have been blessed by the wonderful work they do. And so I've asked a representative to come, and it was kind of like a drawing, I think, who was going to have to come be here. No, I'm just kidding. But Maura, their director, was actually had a previous engagement. So we got someone better. We got Ann. So this is Ann Bumbelow, and by the way, her husband is next to her, Andrew. So next, on the way out, you can high-five him. Anyway, Ann, why don't you come on up and share? Where'd that microphone go? Here it is. I want you to know I'm a board member, okay? And I'm always impressed with Ann, whatever she does. She works really hard, and she's very organized. And I would love to steal them from Imago Dei, because that's where they go. But, you know, hey, no proselytizing going here. 20 bucks, 30, never mind.
And you must mean that, because you did not ask me to send over any previous notes or what I would be saying this morning. So, either a trusting relationship or something else going on. I do want to start this morning by opening up just with a few passages of Scripture, which I feel like go right along with kind of our ministry and what I'll be sharing about Mother and Child this morning. I will sort of be jumping around, but if you'd like to open your Bible, I'll just sort of be highlighting some different things from the story of Abraham and Sarah, beginning in Genesis 16. So Genesis 16, verses 1 through 3, says, "Now Sarah, Abram's wife, bore him no children. She had an Egyptian slave girl whose name was Hagar, and Sarah said to Abram, 'You see that the Lord has prevented me from bearing children. Go in my slave girl. It may be that I shall obtain children by her.' And Abram listened to the voice of Sarah, so that after Abram had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan, Sarah, Abram's wife, took Hagar the Egyptian, her slave girl, and gave her to her husband Abram as a wife." Then skipping down verses 11 through 12. "And the angel of the Lord said to her, 'Now you have conceived and shall bear a son, and you shall call him Ishmael, for the Lord has given heed to your affliction. With his hand against everyone and everyone's hand against him, he shall live at odds with all his kin.' So she named the Lord who spoke to her." Actually, I'm going a verse longer than I said in that one. And again, from there, looking at Genesis 17, 15 through 19. "God said to Abraham, 'As for Sarah your wife, you shall not call her Sarah, but Sarah shall be her name. I will bless her, and moreover, I will give you a son by her. I will bless her, and she will give rise to nations. Kings of people shall come from her.' Then Abram fell on his face and laughed, and he said to himself, 'Can a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? Can Sarah, who is 90 years old, bear a child?' And Abraham said to God, 'Oh, that Ishmael might live in your sight.' And God said, 'No, but your wife Sarah shall bear a son, and you shall name him Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his offspring after him.'" And Genesis 18, 9 through 15, continuing the story, "They said to him, 'Where is your wife Sarah?' And he said, 'There in the tent.' Then one said, 'I will surely return to you in due season, and your wife Sarah shall have a son.' And Sarah was listening at the tent entrance behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in age. It had ceased to be with Sarah after, Now Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in age. It had ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. So Sarah laughed to herself, saying, saying, "After I have grown old, and my husband is old, shall I have pleasure?" The Lord said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and say, 'Shall I indeed bear a child now that I am old?' Is anything too wonderful for the Lord? At the set time I will return to you in due season, and Sarah shall have a son." But Sarah denied, saying, "I did not laugh," for she was afraid. And he said, "Oh, you did laugh." And finally, the last passage, Genesis 21, 1-7. The Lord dealt with Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah as he had promised. Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the time of which God had spoken to him. Abraham gave the name of Isaac to his son whom Sarah bore him, and Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old. As God had commanded him, Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Now Sarah said, "God has brought laughter for me. Everyone who hears will laugh with me." And she said, "Who would ever have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have borne him a son in his old age." And I share these different highlights from Genesis for a few different reasons. At Mother and Child Education Center, where I work, we work with numerous different women. I think it's easy for people to think we work with a certain set, a certain group, a certain stereotype. But I like this passage, as Sarah, as they say, is 99, 100 years old. We work with women of all ages, young teens, up to women in their 60s. We do work with grandparents too. We work with anyone who's parenting. So while we are called Mother and Child, one of our staff members, she's married, and whenever she would leave for work, she'd say, "Okay, I'm going to Mother and Child," and the husband would like to say, "All right, have a nice day at Daddy and Baby." But anyhow, so with this story of Sarah and Abraham, there's a lot of different things that I talked about. There's Sarah, there is the woman Hagar, who's a slave, who also bears him a son. There's things that now that might have, done just fine then, that now we might kind of turn an eye to. And our whole foundation, our existence of Mother and Child, is really to support moms, no matter what their background is, no matter what they're coming from, but to kind of help them see the future. The reason Sarah laughs, she says, or the verse says, is not necessarily because she really thinks what's happening is funny. It's probably more of a nervous laughter of, this is really happening. That's something I can relate to, just in disbelief sometimes. That laughter almost being a release of fear. And we work with women who may have faced different crises or are going through a crisis, whether that be domestic violence, going through a divorce, transitional housing, or homeless. And again, we are here no matter what their background is, whether there's a story like Hagar, married, unmarried, partner, boyfriend, whoever it might be, we're there to accept them and bring them in and support them. We do work with a lot of lower income women, and so one way we seek to support them is to offer baby clothing. We get in a lot of donations of baby supplies, baby blankets, baby booties, different little necessities. We also get in donations of maternity clothing, and so that's a really nice way. If you are a mother or have ever been a mother, I know we've had some moms come in and sometimes they say, "Oh, I don't need that," but then they'll go upstairs to this little maternity room that we have and try something on, and just to see their demeanor change or the look on their face, or to say, "Wow, I never knew what a good pair of pants would feel like when I'm out to here right now, but I really do feel good about myself." And with the sermon this morning being on honoring women, or the whole theme, I guess, of this morning being around honoring women. Like I said, Martin did not ask me to pass off notes, so it's nice when you feel like what you're going to talk about, what you're thinking about lines up, and it's easy to think when you're searching for Mother's Day verses in the Bible to think, oh, thank you, Google, you gave me just this great verse that will line up, versus thanking God for that. But I just think so much of what is said throughout Genesis and the story of Abraham and Sarah is unique, and yet it's very applicable, not just to the women that we work with, but with mothers. I was thinking about, again, the fact that she was 99, and, if you met someone and they said they were 99 and they were expecting just to think of the reactions that might come from that. I think as people parent, it's easy to give advice, sometimes more than it is to listen. And with that theme of honoring women and thinking of what we do, I'd just like to offer encouragement to everyone who, if you're speaking to a mom or even a dad, just to really try and meet them where they're at, listen to what they're saying, listen to what they're going through, because sometimes that can be the greatest gift, is just to listen. I know Mother's Day can also be, I have a friend who last year, they were trying to adopt, and that adoption fell through. And so while Mother's Day can be a very celebratory day for a lot of us, it can also be a very hard day, a day that maybe brings dread because of the loss of a child and feeling like no one may recognize me as being a mother. So that's another thing I was thinking about this morning, just reaching out to those people as well and recognizing that, giving recognition, just as we give recognition to these mothers who we work with. Telling them happy Mother's Day too, whether they may not be mothering right now at that exact point. Telling grandparents thank you for what they've done. Anyone who's kind of served in that mentor mothership position, whether they've actually born a child, adopted a child, or maybe fostering. My husband and I, which is actually ties in with mother and child, have had the really great joy this past year of helping. We're not his foster parents, but we help with his child care Tuesday through Friday when his parents, who are full-time, go to work. They really wanted to become foster parents, but did not feel like the child care was something that they would be able to do, and therefore put out a call, and long story short, we were able to provide more than maybe we had expected, thankfully actually, to mother and child where I work. This little guy who was 5 weeks old when we first started taking care of him is now just over a year and flourishing. Because of that consistency, he's been able to be offered both through his foster parents and I'd say also through us, that Tuesday through Friday. And so much of that is, I am part-time, but I am able to take him in on Tuesday and Thursday, and it's really neat to even just see those parents as they come in and they don't know his full story. Some of them know he's in foster care, others think he's my own child, but no matter where that is, it's neat to see their interaction with him too and kind of call upon him and get in that close relationship. Some of the services that we offer, I know I've kind of talked a little bit about our foundation, but our mission of Mother and Child is to create a community of confident and competent women. And different ways that we do that are services we offer at no cost. We are non-government funded, but at no cost we offer free pregnancy testing, the supplies that I talked about, the baby clothing, the maternity clothing, diapers, baby food and formula. We really try to encourage parents to tell us what their need is today when they come to see us, and to encourage them to come back, but to also establish really healthy boundaries of, we want to help you, but how we help one person may not be the same way we help another. Help is different for all of us, however we might need that. We also have a counselor who volunteers her time a few times a week so people can come in and receive a counseling session one-on-one with her if they're interested. We do parenting classes, which I think Martin's going to share a little bit about. Martin actually has taught and continues to teach one of those out of Holladay Park Church of God, so we're really thankful for that, and also just standing on the board with us and helping us in that way. I did say, yes, loaning us pop-up tents for when there's rain outside and there's 65 families waiting in line because we're having our open house day where they can come and shop for supplies and get diapers, to get maternity clothing, like I said, for themselves. It's kind of like a golden ticket almost, because they'll get there. The event starts at 10 a.m. and sometimes there will be women there ahead of myself arriving at 8 a.m. to train volunteers to prepare for them getting there, just because they want to be the first one. They want to get to really choose those clothes for either baby that's on the way. As soon as they're pregnant, we tell them they can come in and start preparing for the birth of their child, receiving those clothes each month, as well as diapers. I was starting to go into, so we offer all of these services, but we also have a very small staff. There are, I believe, 5 of us who are paid staff, only one of which our director, who is full-time. That being said, we are open 6 days a week, so women can come in. One of the great things is we do have a 24-hour phone line where people can call in, but we're in this little kind of 1920s craftsman house, and I think sometimes it really throws people off because they hear the word center and think more maybe clinical or office-like. And you walk in the front door, and there's a little green comfy couch, a dining room table where some of us have our computers and are working from. And it's just a really nice place to be. Those 5 staff people are women, all of which I would say are mothers. So it's nice to be able to have people come in and really relate to them and talk to them about what we offer. But with such a small staff and operating 6 days a week, we're always looking for volunteers. We're always welcoming volunteers. I'm not necessarily recruiting today, but please do. But if you are interested, I'd be happy to speak to you after the service. You can also look us up online, but no matter the ages, we have, just as our clients, as I was saying, are from all ages, preteens to grandparents. We offer pregnancy testing. We've had positive tests from young teens to late 50s. But volunteers, all ages. We have some parents who come in. It's really nice. They want to volunteer with their children, so they come in. I was saying families come and shop for things. We bundle baby clothing, so there's outfits together ready for those parents who are in that long line of 65 families waiting, so we can get stuff in their bag immediately so they get to take some stuff home, but then also get to shop and choose additional things to kind of personalize and feel like that's something they're really giving their child. We have volunteers who volunteer a few times a week. We have volunteers who volunteer sometimes once a month. Ages, again, vary all over. We have, like I said, families who come in with their kids. We have a couple of high school girls who love to come in after the day of school and help with us. We also have a volunteer who's very dear. She's in her 70s. She's actually one of the women who kind of helped get Mother and Child off the ground originally and has been a piece of it. She comes in every Wednesday. She helps with the sorting of donations. She helps with the bundling of clothes. We have different groups who don't necessarily ever step in our doors, but they're sewing or knitting little baby booties, little blankets, things like that. And then just real quickly, as I know I'm going over time, thank you all who are here today who are mothers. Like I said, whether you are a biological parent, an adoptive parent, maybe you've fostered, maybe you've never had children, and so this is what feels like a harder day. But I would still tell you thank you, because as a woman, and as a woman of God, I feel like we still have a big piece in that, whether it's mentoring and loving and nurturing of the little kids, just like we do at Mother and Child. Lastly, just closing out with this verse, and honoring moms and honoring women. I just encourage you, if you're going out today, whether it's for brunch or you're going home or maybe you're going to the grocery just to buy some stuff, if you do see a mom, just tell her thank you. Parenting is not always easy. Like I said, we help out Tuesday through Friday during the day, and I know that there are some days that are not easy. So to do that full-time or part-time, it's a big deal, and I know it's a big deal just from working with these families and these moms day in and day out. So thank you to each of you, and again, I'd encourage you just to say thanks to somebody else today, and thank you for having me here.
Amazing how technology works. Well, thank you, Ann. Really, I do appreciate you guys being here today, and I'm grateful for your work as a child. And I also wanted to say, too, again, Happy Mother's Day. You know, Proverbs has that one chapter, for chapter 31, that has this glorious statement of an honorable woman. And I'm looking through it, and I said, how many of you do wool and flax these days, you know? Or you know, you're kind of, oh, you make fine linen in purple. Well, purple's a wonderful color, but you know. But I do think there's a verse in here that makes sense. And I don't want to say it as a, ladies, this is what you should have. I want to say, children and husbands, this is what we should be doing. Okay? It says, her children arise and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Now, one might interpret this text as being a statement of, see, ladies, when you do it good, this is what happens with your family. I don't want to go that direction. I want you to understand, I think that this concept for Mother's Day is for us to celebrate you and for all of your endurance. I was thinking this morning, Kathy and I have been married 34 years, and you know what makes that possible? Her endurance of me. So I just want to say thank you, my love, and I appreciate your skill as a mother and as a wife, and I greatly honor you today. I also want to suggest to you as well that this last couple of days I've learned some things about parenting. And the challenge about parenting is that now at this age when I have grandkids, I'm going, oh my goodness, I wish I'd have known this years ago, you know. So I want to stand up here and say, number one, I am not the perfect husband. Number two, I am not the perfect father. And I'm still learning. And it's amazing how much God still works with me and talks to me about things. I do want to honor a couple of our guests here today. Nora, it's wonderful to have you here today. We're grateful for you. And I see, and Helen, good to have you here today too. Thank you for being here. I know it was hard getting here, so I want you to know I appreciate that. And I also want to say to you that to all of our ladies over the age of 90, apparently God still likes to give you kids. So, you know, according to Scripture, so just be good. Okay. Love and Logic that I've spent over the last couple of days working with, I was telling Andrew and Ann this morning, my brain is so full of this stuff, I could spend talking 2 hours, and I won't do that to you. I'll keep it very, very brief. But think about this. What if you could enjoy your children? In other words, do your kids ever argue with you or banter with you or, fight against you on certain things? I mean, I'm sure none of your kids have ever done that. Mine have done it twice, but okay, it's a constant thing with parenting. You've been in the store with the mom with the toddler and the kid's doing a meltdown. Have you ever seen that in Walmart, and I want it, no, I want, and they have all, the beautiful thing about Love and Logic is that it gives you strategies on how to deal with that. Let me give you an example, and then I'm going to get to my text this morning. A woman has two young sons. One's about 8 years old, the other one's about 6 years old. And if you've ever raised boys, you know that they are a challenge and a half, right? And they're sitting in the back seat. And what do boys do sitting in the back seats while their mom's driving the car? They fight, right? You touched me. You're in my spot. He's looking at me. All that kind of stuff, And so they're going at it back there, and the mom has just had it. She's been going through this for years, right? So she has developed a strategy, and here's her strategy. She is driving down the road. The boys start fighting. She looks in her rearview mirror, and she just quietly pulls the car off to the side of the road. She pulls a book out of her purse. She says to the boys, I'm tired of you fighting. You go ahead and fight and get it done. I'm going to go wait outside until you're finished. She gets out of the car, walks around to the trunk, opens up the trunk, pulls out a lawn chair and sits it on the ground, closes the trunk. She sits in the lawn chair, props her feet up on the bumper, and starts reading her book. What do you think the boys are doing? They're staring out the back window like, what is mom doing, She sits there for about 5-10 minutes, and finally she closes the book, and she puts the lawn chair back, and she goes, you boys are done, right? Yes, Mom, okay, fine. And then she travels down the road. So the mom's thinking in her head, cha-ching, this one worked, right? Well, the problem with children is that they are scientists. When one experiment doesn't work, they tweak it, right? So this next time they're driving down the road, and the two little boys are in the back, and they start fighting again. But the problem this time is that the mom's got an appointment. She has to get across town, and she can't just pull over and wait for him. So at this point, she's just beside herself, and she just does this thing. She just goes, oh. She's still driving. She's, oh. And the boys are going, Mom, what's wrong? Oh, you're just robbing me of my energy. What? You're just sapping all my energy. Have you ever noticed when your kids are acting up, you feel drained? Don't you? I mean, you just kind of feel like, oh my goodness, And so here the mom's going, and she goes, boys, you're going to have to replace this energy. Now, we can't deal with it right now, but we'll deal with it tomorrow. Something will happen. Try not to worry about it. She goes on to her appointment. Well, the next day she gets the boys up, nice, bright and early. She says, boys, when some children rob energy from their mom like that, they try to replace it by doing things like dusting in the house. Would you like to dust the house today to replace mom's energy? No. Okay. Would you like to do some dishes in the kitchen? That would help replace some of my energy. That way I don't have to do it. Would you like to do some dishes? No. Okay. Well, some kids actually go outside to the backyard and they do some yard work, like pull weeds and things like that. That replaces mom's energy. Would you like to do that? No. And I go, okay, well, this is early in the day, and I want you to pick one of those three choices, and you have till 5 o'clock. So here's the trick. You give them choices, you give them a deadline, and then you be thinking of a consequence if they don't meet that deadline. Now, do you think they met the deadline? No. So what did they do? The mom says, well, boys, I'm still feeling pretty weak from all that loss of energy, so we'll have to deal with this tomorrow. Try not to worry about it. So the boys think they've gotten away with it, right? So the next morning, she gets them up early, and she says, boys, I have an announcement to make. I'm going sledding today. The boys are going, yes, we go sledding. Let's go sledding. This will be awesome. And she goes, well, ding dong. They're going, what's that? Oh, that's Mabel, the babysitter. By the way, she's not the nice babysitter. She's the mean babysitter, okay? She comes walking and she says, now Mabel's going to take care of you today while I go sledding. What? Mom? No, I'm sorry. This is to replace my energy that you took, and there should be no reason for you to get to go sledding. So I'm going to leave you here with Mabel. Bye. Oh, and by the way, you get to pay Mabel for her time. But we don't have any money. Oh, well, she'll take toys also. What? Yeah, just give her some of your toys for her time, okay? So she goes off, and the cool thing was she put the sled in the back of the window of the car as she was driving away. The boys are like staring out the window. What do you think the favorite thing the boys like to do? Sledding, right? Somebody asked her after she was telling this story, said, did you go sledding? She goes, of course not. I went to the mall. I had a great time, And she comes back, and the kids are going, Mom, Mabel was so mean to us. Really? Why? What happened? Oh, she took our best toys. She wouldn't take that old rat. He said, no, she took our best toys. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. That's really tough. Interestingly enough, the next time the boys started fighting in the back of the car, she just goes like this. Oh, and the boys just went, Okay, love and logic is based upon empathy and consequences. We learn our best stuff when we feel the consequence. If we as parents rob our children when we save them from consequences. Now, they need to be safe consequences. We're not talking about them playing on the edge of a cliff, and they drop 300 feet. Oh, you learned a life lesson there. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about safe consequences. Mabel was there and kept the boys safe. Mabel was there as part of the consequence, okay? I felt bad for Mabel, actually, but, because I imagine these boys were whining the whole time. But the reality was, they had to face Mabel. Now, how many times have you had to face a tough person? Don't you think it's healthy for our kids to learn how to deal with tough people? And the important thing is that out of this, they didn't hate the mom, The mom was caring and empathetic. She's, I feel so energized. Thank you, boys. I really appreciate that. So love and logic takes some ideas like that. All right. Let me go to my text. All right. Anyway, the love and logic classes I'm going to be offering probably, they're like 5-week courses, and I'm going to be offering them 3, maybe 4 times a year here at the church. Offering it to mother and child, offering it to our neighborhood, offering it to all of our churches, offering it to anybody who wants it. Okay. Secondly, I'm also going to offer to our Church of God churches willingness to come in and do the process for them. Because the association paid my ticket to go to this conference. And so for at least a year, I figure I owe them, a bunch of conferences, right? To help other churches offer this to their church and their community. The other thing I've been thinking of, that if there's ways that I can do this, I might try to find other organizations in the area that might be willing or see the value of someone coming in and helping their parents, their people who are parents, learn how to love and care for their children. So that's kind of my thought, and my big thought is that if I can build relationship with other people in the community, perhaps they might want to come hang out with us in the church. We have a wonderful children's program. I feel very proud and very easily able to say, you should come and meet Pastor Julie. This is a great thing. We've got stuff for all ages, so please come and feel part of it. So, now, I want you all get your Bibles out. Somebody tell me what time it is. Okay, we'll do this quickly. Chapter 5 of Ephesians has one of those passages that has caused so much controversy in our society. Do you know which one I'm talking about? Ephesians 5? Specifically, I'm talking about verse 22, but I don't want to start there. I want you to look at verse 21. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 21. Everybody find it? If you're looking in the Pew Bible, it's on page 1159. Okay? Now, verse 21 says, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Isn't that beautiful? We are all in mutual submission to one another. I submit to you, you submit to me. We work together. We are in submission to one another out of reverence for Christ. Now, a lot of men like to pull this next verse out. Right? Verse 22. But I want you all together, tell me the very first word of verse 22. What is it? Wives. Verse 25, what's the first word in that sentence? Husbands. Here's my point. Wives, you worry about verse 22. Husbands, you worry about verse 25. I got your back, ladies. It's okay. And I want to take verse 25 on down. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. In this same way, this is the verse I want you to really look at, guys. Husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. After all, no one ever hated his own body, but he feeds and cares for it, just as Christ does the church. For we are members of his body. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. This is a profound mystery, but I'm talking about Christ and the church. However, each one of you also must love his wife, and he loves himself as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. This is perhaps one of the most dynamic changes in thought processes in the early church that anyone had ever come up with. Remember that marriages in those days were arranged, right? It was one set of parents connected with another set of parents who had a daughter and a son, and they connected, and they said, okay, we'll give you X number of sheep and goats, and you give us her, or vice versa. There's a dowry to be paid. There was this exchange. It was all about a business deal. It had no sense of romance, or no sense of, oh, sweet mystery of life, at last I found you. You know, none of that stuff, you know. It was all straightforward. You know, if I'm losing my daughter, who's a hired hand on my property, and she's going over to your property, you're going to have to pay me something for her. That's the way it worked. Now, Paul comes along and says, husbands, love your wives. I like the plural there. I thought that was interesting. Love your wives. Well, we'd have to change it to wife today. But, you know, just as Christ loved the church. Think in terms of, guys, think of this. This is Mother's Day. One of the saddest days on earth, except for Valentine's Day. When you're a woman and you're married and you want kids and you have no kids, the worst thing is to experience is Mother's Day. Just like if you're a single person, you know, and it's Valentine's Day and you've got no one with you, you know, and you see all these couples and you see constant ads for jewelry on the TV and there's all these romantic movies out. It's just, you know, I like the way Zach calls it, Single Awareness Day. Well, this is like, you know, Motherless Awareness Day. It's the opposite. So I want to say to all of our women, we need to treat you with honor. Because God has blessed us with two genders. And I really believe he wants us to care about people. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And do what? Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Paul extrapolates that right into here. And he says, husbands, love your wives like Christ loves the church. You know, I do this thing called Dad to Dad, and it's one of those things that I just kind of stumbled upon, and I think it's going to be one of the coolest things that I do, because I get to spend time with men talking about being fathers and husbands. It's a cool thing because, here are these young guys who, I can say to them, guys, I've been married 34 years, raised 2 sons. I've made every mistake in the book. Let me help you avoid them, And so I'll come along and I'll say, listen, maybe it would be good if we just had a game plan. What are we going to do? One of my sessions is how to be Mr. Right to her. So I spend time with the guys talking about what is it a woman needs most. In a marriage relationship, what is the one and pinnacle thing above all else that a woman needs? And you know what it is? It's the same thing men need. Unconditional love and acceptance. How many of you women married your husbands in hopes you could change them? I mean, how long did it take you to figure out that was a worthless pursuit? And men, how many of you married women hoping they wouldn't change? See, the problem is we're all about ourselves, but here in a marriage relationship, we should be about giving and honoring each other. Ladies, I love Egeridge's approach with love and respect, and he takes these same verses and he says, ladies, if you want to really charge your husbands up, respect them, admire them, thank them, encourage them. Men, if you want to really charge your wife up, show loving acts to her. Now, here's a question I think every couple should ask each other. Finish this sentence. I feel loved when? You see, I could do a lot of loving things for Kathy and her not feel loved because I'm doing them thinking, I'm pretty good at this, Saw a few years ago an email that came through and talked about points that men earn with their wives. And one of them was, it astonished me, it was making the bed. Now, for men, making the bed, we consider that a 5-pointer right there. 5 brownie points right there. And you know how many of you women think it is? 0. You're supposed to make the bed. And there's a conflict in the way we honor each other and the way we think. So, one of the first questions I think would be valuable to ask would be, I feel loved when? And have your spouse answer that question. Second question for the day that I think would be amazing. It would transform family life all over the place. If once each day we looked at a family member and we said, how can I help you? That sounds so simple, doesn't it? You know why we don't ask that question? We're afraid they're going to answer it. They're going to tell us how we can help them. And then we're going, oh man, I don't want to do that. But if you want to show love to someone, say, how can I help you? Here's a thought. Those of you who have teenage, or here's a young man over here, I won't pick on you, but you're here. Think of it how if a teenager walked up to his parents and said, how can I help you? The parents would probably have to sit down very quickly for loss of oxygen or something, How can I help? You want to help me? The thought process that goes between us oftentimes is that I need to get my stuff done first and then maybe I'll help you. Loving one another is about putting each other first. I learned something this week that I thought was really interesting. Do you know how we convey love and affection to each other? Eye contact, touch, and a smile. You walk up to somebody, Tim, dude, it's so good to see you, man. I love you. You're just awesome. And I'm lying to him because I hate his guts. No, I'm kidding. But it's when we were children and we cried because our pants were wet or something. What did the mom do? She came over and she made her face. Oh, hi, baby. How we weird faces would come up with babies. And then we pick up the child. We're smiling. We're cuddling. We're making eye contact, and that child knows they're loved. By the way, on the airplane ride home from Denver, 4 toddlers. I was surrounded by 1, 2, 3, 4. It was interesting to see how these moms dealt with their toddlers. You know, here I've spent the last 3 days listening to how to raise children, right? And to watch all 3 of them go through their paces, you know. And one of them had about, I want to say 9, 10-month-old, and she's bouncing them around, you know. And the lady next to me, she had a little under 2 years, and the one back there was 2 years, and the one over here, I'm guessing 18 months. Honey, if you were with me, it'd have been you being at work, you know. It was just crazy, and I'm sitting there, and I'm watching. The one mom, she's doing okay. This mom was awesome. She had the kid calm, easygoing, took care of all the needs, anticipated things. She was there, and then she had this calm demeanor, you know. And the people in the back, they had the screaming one for the first half hour of the flight, you know. And then the lady over here, the last half hour, oh, this was funny. She went bananas. You know, the kid was screaming, and it was mom and dad together, you know. And then finally she looked at her husband and says, we're trading places. And I'm like, I know who wears the pants in that family, you know. And changed places, and so she's over there, and I said, oh, it's good to take turns, you know, because she's right next to me. And so she's doing a crossword puzzle, trying to focus them out, you know, and he's doing everything he can to keep this little kid entertained and stuff. And then finally the kid just starts going meltdown, you know. And so she comes over, she says, get out of there. She picks up the kid and she walks to the back and calms the child down, you know. And then she comes back and the kid's still fussy, and so the dad takes a turn. And I just looked at her and I said, hey, it's okay. Been there, done that. No problem. And she just smiled at me. Lady behind her looks at, I just think she's tired. And all of a sudden, this mom went on defense alert. She's going, thank you for your advice, but I don't want you to advise me. Thank you, but I just said, she said, thank you for your advice. I don't want you, you know. And it was like, I thought the woman was going to slap her, you know. And I'm like, okay, one of those, all right, you know. And so I'm smart. I'll look forward, you know. And later on, you know, she was very nice to me. And it clicked in my head. I've been learning the last 3 days that you do things in an empathetic way with people and they receive you. You do things in a declarative statement to them like, I know better, they're going to reject you, right? Just like when you're parenting a kid, what's the first thing a kid wants to do when you tell them no? That's exactly what they want to do, right? We all do the same thing. It says don't touch the wet paint. What do we want to do? You know, I want to see if it's wet, you know. Did they do a good job? You know, that kind of thing. And it's just human nature. So instead of coming off like a gang, you know, like you're the drill sergeant, and I command thee, you know, you give the kid choices. You give people choices. I started thinking their whole love and logic process kind of works in all facets of relationship. It kind of does, you know. So I'm sorry, you're going to get this for a while because I'm going to have to study this stuff. And so, you know how as preachers, what we learn, you get to learn. So it's just the process. But I really think there's something here that's of great value for all of us. They do this in classes. They teach teachers how to use love and logic. By the way, I picked up a book called Grandparenting Love and Logic Style. Now, why on earth would I pick that up? Because half of you are grandparents, right? So I'm thinking, and by the way, if you looked at the sermon series flyer that's in your folder, week number 3, I'm talking to you grandparents, okay? So I've got some ammo now, so get ready. But I'm just telling you, I think one of the beautiful things that we can do is show empathy to each other. Not sympathize. Sympathize means I'm going to feel what you feel. You know, that's why you don't have, you know, psychotherapists always going, you know, they just empathize, they don't sympathize. They listen, but they don't, and they empathize with the person. I said, I feel so bad for what you're going through. As a youth pastor, I could do that all day with kids. Their parents, they'd go ballistic. Some kid come up and tell me, yeah, I went out and got drunk Friday night. Really? You think that was a good idea? Well, I don't know. How'd you feel the next morning? Had a headache. You know, hungover. Was that good? No. Do you think you might have put yourself in danger in doing that? Well, yeah, maybe. You know, as a youth pastor, I could do that. My boys, if they had done that, I'd go, what are you thinking? You know, you idiot, stop it! You know, that kind of stuff. And I would have blown it because I would have overreacted. So here's my thought. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loves the church. Do something today that honors your wife. Ask her how you can help her. Ask her, how does she feel loved from you? Find out, how do you feel loved from me? It's a great question. Because in the long list of things that we all get told to do, the number one relationship, if you're married, is your wife and your husband. They say 90% of success in life is who you're married to. Now, I got to tell you, Barb Chappelle, you're a saint. You've been married to Barry how many years? You know? He'd be a tough dude to hang in there with. You need to honor this woman today, you know? And I'm just saying, you know, there are women in our lives who may not be our wives, but they are people who care for us and encourage us. They support us. We need to honor them. Bottom line, we need to honor one another in Christ. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Submitting means I'm going to put you first. All right, we're going to close in a song called the Family Prayer Song, and I think it's a great song that summarizes our thoughts today. Thank you, Anne, for sharing about mother and child. I hope you all go and volunteer, or at least start helping by donating items that they need. You can go on their website, which is, and I put it, oh, it used to be up there, momandchildpdx.org. Got it right. momchildpdx.org. And they have a whole listing of things that you can bring and support, you know, and help. Are also a great way to volunteer. Come on up, Zach. They're also a great way to volunteer, and they have wonderful options for you. And I just would love to have our church be that one of those churches that they look at and say, man, these people really help us out. By the way, construction guys, they could also use some help with their building. You know, it's like they've got a stove they'd like installed. They have some steps and things that are, you know, life-threatening. So, you know, if there's some ways you could participate in just helping out with that, that'd be awesome. Am I telling the truth? Yes, okay. So there's lots of ways for all of us to be involved. Bless their hearts, they're enduring a construction right next door. They took out one of those old 1920 houses, and now they're putting in, how many levels is that supposed to be? 3 or 2? 4 levels? A 4-level apartment. And they're going to be 4 units for 1 bathroom. They are high density. I would hate to live there. I mean, that just seems like, but it's near max, so they figure they can get away with it. Anyway, we fought it at first, but it just didn't work. But bless them, you know, that we're still there, and they make a huge impact in lives. 65 is the average on an open house. 65 moms, families that they impact monthly. 65. And that's an average number. I've seen them do, well, Christmas time, we had like, what, 90 or something like that. It was huge. I got to be there. I was their DJ announcer dude, and I've just had too many things going on Saturdays lately to do that. But it's a really cool, if you want to just see what they're doing, go on the second Saturday of the month and just go see what they're doing. You'll be so impressed. It's an amazing thing. All right. Would you stand with me and let's worship the Lord?